Welcome to Tanks Invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professional development. As the recording time of 2:33 p.m. on Eastern Time, Ethereum currently $2,963, up about 1.36% so far. As you can see clearly on the crypto market and the equity market, we are quite opposite actually. On the equity side, we are down respectively about 2% across the index. Seems like on the equity side is definitely sliding down significantly. Driven by its commodity price of oil, obviously it's been spiking in a recent affectation. And as of today, it surged to approximately 11%, reaching $106 per barrel. Obviously driven by the Russian-Ukraine war, which obviously Russia is one of the key exporter for oil across the globe. So whenever you see some sort of cut off with, obviously the sanction, despite on the defensive front towards Russia, as a logical frame of reference, from their point of view, from Russia as well, it will subsequently hinder or kind of cut off the pulse in between the oil circulations that we'll have on an export and import perspective, globally, right? So with that spike, obviously drive an anti-collision effect onto equity. While at the same time, with respect to cryptocurrencies, the surge that we're seeing right now is not really driven by the macro affectation, right? It's mainly driven by a lot of the corporate adoption news that's been happening in the past couple, I would say, days so far. With respect to eBay, has announced their adoption onto Bitcoin, Ethereum, and obviously Dogecoin onto their platform into their infrastructure on a commerce perspective. Obviously, if you know what eBay is, they are like an auction website. They also deal with online transactions alongside with PayPal. So that's something that is not sure if you're aware of, but just like more of a FYI, right? So what's the game plan for tomorrow, right? Per my first depiction that I talked about earlier this morning, right? March 2nd and 3rd, which is technically on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm just looking at the calendar, so apologies, I'm looking up. We will hear from Jerome himself, as he's obviously speaking with the Capitol Hills on his depictions around the monetary policy going forward, right? So obviously with the volatility, with a lot of mixtures, right? The interest hikes, right? Which based on now Wall Street expectations, it's gonna be 9 hikes based on Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan, right? Jerome said something about like 4 to 5, right? Are we gonna see some contradiction in his verbiage tomorrow? So we have to keep tabs on that one, right? In addition to that, with respect to the job numbers, right? How is the later job number, in the foreshadow perspective looking like? Is it going to be an alignment of what basically Wall Street is expecting again, or are we going to miss the needle all over again, right? In addition to that, obviously the Russian-Ukraine war, with respect to the sanction that we're performing onto Russia, and also with respect to our defensive budget front that we are going to be, supporting as an alliance, as other countries are doing so. How would that deplete into our budget on a countrywide perspective, right? Because as we deplete that into our budget, someone has to pay for it, and who's going to pay for it? Us, the citizens of the United States are going to pay for it, right? And that means the interest hikes will be even more dramatic. 9 might be a logical one, but it can actually extend that to even further to 10, 11 interest hikes. To fight inflationary pressure head on, right? So, and lastly, with respect to the Omicron news, right? I know we've been kind of putting that as a secondary factor in comparisons to months ago. It used to be like the primary factor on driving the sell-off, right? Which is the reason why we crashed basically 2 years ago in March, and that was a major hindrance. And obviously, that subsequently escalated that to the interest hikes that we need to incur, the inflationary pressure that we need to incur to sustain corporate livelihood at the same time to get our stimulus checks going, right? But now we're on the opposite side of the spectrum. Seems like COVID is subsiding, but the world is still wild, wild west type of affectation, right? And U.S., historically has been acting like the police of the world, which is true, right? And I think we need to do what we need to do to support our neighboring countries, but that will come from a cost, right? So obviously a lot of complexity, right? And I think Jerome will need to really thread the needle tomorrow onto conveying confidence to the market, if you may, right? So that's the depiction. Let's just dive into the tactical marching order that we'll have for tomorrow. What would happen if we go negative? What would happen if the verbiage come up a little bit more optimistic, right? So with respect to recording time of approximately 2:38 p.m. on the Eastern time, we're basically $50 below $3,000, right? And right now we try to reach above to the 3,150 today, but we could see that we gave up halfway. We could not even reach above $3,050, which is technically like a non-substantive consolidated level, right? We broke above 3,000, but we know 3,000 is not a real number based on what we've been talking about so far, right? So 3150 is where we need to go above to continue bullish momentum. If we don't, right, tomorrow we might be see a negative one, and again, right, it's ultimately depending on the depiction or optimism among investors. But ultimately, the technicals never lie, right? Do we know? It's like how does the technical look like at the moment, right? I would say the propensity of actually going back down to the 2850 is a lot higher than going up to 3158, right? The reason I'm saying this is because we have crossed up for a while now, right? And that's the indicator of the green candle. But we are at the 55 out of 70, so we are at a relatively upper echelon of the neutral, and we are closer to 2850, relatively speaking, than 3158, right? Which is relative, right? And it's obviously, if you think about it, it's easier to sell than to buy, if you think about that psychologically, right? And I think that the pictures on the chart is saying so right now. On top of the fact that we crossed up for a while, we had that green candle. So right now, looking for an apex on the MACD will indicate that's basically the end of this short-term pump that we just saw, right? So something to think about, right? So 2850 is still the frame that with dollar cost average at. The next level obviously will be 2750, which is not a real level. The real level is 2620, right? So these would be the frames I would look out for, right? With respect to Bitcoin, obviously pumped up because of the eBay news, and obviously with the overall macro market front, we are at the 60 out of 70, cross up relatively sharply. So right now, looking for an apex would be the logical thing to do. But because of the fact that we are gliding on a sideways fashion right now, and we're relatively on the super high upper echelon of the neutral, the likelihood of actually coming back down will be higher to, again, like the low 40,000, right? But the first level will kind of bounce from will be 42, because these are flat number, like 43, which is the first level, 42, 41, 40, right? And where we need to go down to deplete this will be ideally somewhere around 37,500, to be honest with you. Dogecoin, 45 out of 70 for about to form a golden cross. So as we cross up, we will see some buying pressure, and I think the peak that we could get up to ideally will be somewhere around like 15 cents, right? But right now, would it be logical to buy? It's not terrible, right? But not the best, right? I prefer anywhere from like 12 cents over to 10 cents from here. Cardano's flat again, right? We try to get above $1 again. With the 47 out of 70 form a golden cross recently. So that means we will have some more room to run up to, but you could see how fast we canceled out on the $1. We got to $1 for like maybe 2 seconds and sold back down, right? So that means there's some weakness around the market. The $1 is definitely a monumental level of resistance, but we need to get above the $1 to continue the bullish momentum. And I think it's more of a timing thing, because like right now the cross section has formed with the green candle. But I think as we look at the apex, right, which I think will be forming as we hit again at $1, we'll be at the 50 out of 70, and that will, more likely incentivize the market to sell back down, especially for the fact that tomorrow and the subsequent days will be, the market driver mainly will be obviously primarily Jerome's speech tomorrow, and the subsequent days. And also with respect to Ukraine-Russian war, right, which is kind of I would say they're on par in terms of market affectation. The reason that we green right now is really the market, the corporate adoption from eBay. Really, that's the main driver on why we up. And respect to Solana with the 50 out of 70, again, right, anywhere from 90 all the way to the 75 is still logical. XRP is up about 2.7%, anywhere from basically 63 to 57. Polkadot up about 6%. At the 51 out of 70, definitely not advisable. Anywhere from basically 16 to 14 from here. Algorand's up about 1.4%, 85 right now. I would prefer anywhere from like 80 all the way to 68 cents from here. Shiba Inus are basically at the higher upper echelon of 2000s. Again, right, low 2000s, so 2100 beginning, 1400, 900 with a 52 out of 70, so not advisable. MACTAX, 43 to 120, 142 to 120 would be logical frames. AVAX up about 2.7%, 59 to 50, right? Right now we are relatively on an upper echelon level again, right? So this is not advisable. Luna is parabolic, large separation, 55 out of 70, definitely not advisable to be incurring risk at the moment. We know the reason why, right? Large separation means there are a lot of, manipulative type of activity going on. And again, RSI is on 75 out of 70, so no need for me to explain that front, right? It's a really high risk for you to buy at the moment. This is gonna sell off any day now, so definitely be cautious. So that's my last video for today. I have just like 5 meetings after 3 p.m. So I have like a little break for 15 minutes. But let me know if you have any questions, and let me, and have a good rest of the Tuesday. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.